Hi everybody, welcome back to Cabin Crafts and Simple Living, and today I'm going to show you, I'm remaking this video and I want to show you, I think the easiest way to show you is in miniature how to make a bed gown and a 18th century skirt. So there's our little skirt. It's going to be a little skirt, but I didn't sew this. But anyway, I think this is going to be the simplest way to show you without the sewing machine humming, and you can't get really close up on the sewing machine, but I can show you this in miniature, and I think y'all will get it. This is what your gown will look like before it's sewn, obviously, but I'm going to show you how to cut the pattern. We're also going to talk about different types of material to use in your 18th century and early 19th century little kit. I've had a couple of women who are interested in this, and I think this is the best way to show you. So I'm going to put my little tiny one aside. Doesn't it look like a kimono? Well, a kimono would be straight down, but it does look a lot like a kimono. And this is how women preserved not wasting material in the early 18th century or 18th century and early 19th century. So we're going to look at some material, some paper here. I'm going to show you how to cut the patterns. And so first of all, this is the folded edge, obviously. And this is your selvage edge. The selvage edge is always going to be the open side. Okay, and then of course obviously this is the folded side. So imagine that this is your fabric. I've got a long rectangle here, and I usually use for a skirt 3 yards. So imagine that this is 3 yards material. Now, very importantly, you want to pre-wash and dry your fabric before you do this, and then iron it back the way it came. And usually you can still see, even when you wash it and dry it, you can still see that folded edge. So go ahead and wash it, dry it, and iron it back to what it was originally like when it came off the bolt. So we're going to assume that this is our washed, dried, ironed fabric. Excuse me, I don't know why I've got the burps. But then what we're going to do is we're going to open it back up. And so you have this long rectangle. So if this is your material, this is what you're going to do. You're going to open your material back up. Usually I use 44-inch wide material. Okay, it could be 44, 45, 46. It doesn't really matter. Just don't get that, real long stuff that they line quilts with, because then that, I don't know how to tell you what, you're going to have to cut that down. So what we're going to do is we've got our material opened up. These are our selvage edges now. And we're going to fold it in half, like this. This is our material, okay? And so now we're going to move to the actual fabric. And this is fabric. This would actually be better for a top, but you could use it as a skirt. This is from Hobby Lobby, this little rose pattern. You can see it's my long rectangle. Here's my folded edges. Okay, we're opening it up, we're folding it in half, and you're going to have one folded side. This is your skirt now. We're on the skirt. One folded side and one raw side. And what you're going to do with this raw side is you're going to, about halfway up, I should have brought pins with me, but about halfway up, about right here, try and make a mark that you can see. You're going to have, this is going to be the opening of your skirt that you're going to step down into. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold that under and hem it. And then you're going to fold this one under and hem it. But you don't hem all the way down. You're just going down to that little halfway mark, and that way you won't have raw edges. So let's imagine that I have sewn, I probably should have sewn this little miniature last night, but anyway, here's halfway down, and we've got our raw edges that's going to be our opening sewed. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to open this all the way back out. Again, imagine your little edges have sewn. And we're going to bring that down And in real life, I would say about 1/4 of an inch. And then you're going to come down probably about 5/8 of an inch. And you're going to hem all the way across, just along the very bottom of your, this is your casing for your drawstring. Okay? So let's imagine. So you don't want to sew up into here. You just kind of want to put your foot and catch this bottom, but you don't want a raw edge. That's why I folded it under 1/4 of an inch. So here's our casing that goes all across the top of our little skirt for your drawstring. So let's fold all this back down. Let's fold it in half. Like I said, I probably should have just sewed this by hand to show you all. So here, let's imagine this has all been turned under, and the reason why you do this part first is so you don't have a raw edge on your casing. And there's your drawstring. Now, and of course do everything on the wrong side. Now, let's turn this wrong side out. And where you sewed from here up to hem that where the casing will be. Now you're going to, and imagine this is turned under, remember? And you can't even put a little cut here. Let me get my scissors, make it a little easier. But I think this will be better to show you in miniature, because this is just scrap fabric, so I'm just going to show you. And you could have done this in the beginning. You can do this in the beginning. Here's your raw edges, and then they've been turned under. Okay? Now we've got this side of our skirt, which is going to be sewn shut. So you're going to come in 5/8 of an inch, and you're going to sew your skirt from that middle down to the hem. Here's your hem. This is the bottom of your skirt. And then what I like to do when it's all finished is go back and make a sew across and go back and forth with your machine a couple times to reinforce this. So as you put this on and off, you're not going to stress that. Okay? And then the very last thing you're going to sew is your hem. And that's according to, you know, how tall or short you are. And they are usually ankle length, your 18th century skirts. So I actually brought some real skirts. Let's see if I can show you some of the details I'm talking about. Let's move that aside. I brought 2 skirts. One that's sewn the way I'm talking about, and the other is actually sewn in the 18th century manner, and I'll show you the difference. But this is for you all that are wanting to make a 18th century kit. So here you can see my drawstrings. This is that big length of material. It's just been turned under and hemmed. You can see that. Now when we get to the side, now I can show you what I'm talking about. This is your opening. This has been hemmed. And then when we get down here, this is what I'm talking about of sewing across. Because now, the rest of the way down, it's been turned right side out and then sewn and ironed down, and then here's my hem. So the only side you've got to sew is this one side, because this side is folded. So you've only got to sew one side. So I hope that explains how to do a skirt, 18th century skirt, or even into the 19th century. You do the little sides first, and it's only going about halfway down. And the reason why you want to leave this big of an opening is so you can reach into your pocket. And you all have seen my pocket video. And then so I went about halfway down on this skirt, hemmed those little opening sides, and then you can see where I went with my machine I clipped the fabric, but then I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth across that, so that when you're putting your skirt on and off, this is reinforced. Then you're going to turn your material right sides together and hem the rest of the way down on this skirt until you get to, I can't even find my seam now because this skirt's so wild. Okay. Then when you get down here, you can see that and then the very last thing you do is your hem, according to how tall or how short you are. And of course, iron your seams down so that they look nice. And that's an 18th century easy skirt for you all. And I had a lady say, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is how I got a bunch of girls for a play costume. Now I'm going to show you the difference in a real 18th century pattern. These are J.P. Ryan, okay? And the difference in the top of the skirt, here's the difference. You have a center box pleat, and then you've got all these pleats, and then they're open on both sides. And there went my cuckoo clock, and I forgot to do this so the cuckoo clock wouldn't happen. But here's they're open on both sides, and you're going to have that slit on both sides. And you can see where I hemmed in the slit. This is a solid brown, so it's a little easier to see. And then you reinforce that across the bottom, and then you have your other seam where you put your right sides together, sew it down, and this is on both sides. So this is based off of an actual 18th century pattern. You've got pleats on both the back and the front. So here's the back. You've got this box pleat that will always be in the center, and then you've got pleats, and then you fold and you sew a waistband over the top of that where your drawstrings are going to come through. But this is not a drawstring. This is not a drawstring. This is actually sewn. The end of it is sewn inside a few inches. And you've got tape on front and back. This is twill tape. You can get it in all different kinds of widths. This is a very thin width. This one was a pretty wide width. But you can see this is what's called twill tape. Okay, and you can even get this, I've seen this at Hobby Lobby, but if you can't find it at yours, you can definitely order it online. Just look for twill tape. You can get it in white and off-white. This one is white. That one was off-white. This is a little bit thinner. But this is the difference in a real 18th century pattern and then the one I showed you, the drawstring. So that's 18th century skirts, or into the early 19th century. So hopefully that will explain some things to you. But if you're in a pinch and you need a skirt fast, make the other one make this one. Okay? Wait, make this one. Make this one where you've got your simple bolt of material, 3 yards, pre-wash it, dry it, iron it, back to the way it was when it came off the bolt. When you go to sew it, you open it up, you fold it in half. Here's your folded edge. Here's your other side that has where you're going to hem your edges inside here. This is your opening. And then of course when you get done with that, then you do your casing. You open it up, you fold your paper down or your material down, give yourself a little bit of a hem, and then fold it down again. There's your casing for your casing, and then this will be all nice and finished. It won't be raw if you have done what I said at the beginning. Then, whenever you go to hem it, you fold this right sides together, and then you hem from the bottom up to that spot where you just did the inside, and then you sew back and forth, and then this is your hem. So super easy. If you do want to get an 18th century pattern, the company that does them is J.P. Ryan. Has a lot of 18th century clothes. So now let's move on to this cute little guy. This is your top. This is called a bedgown. Now there's a difference between a bedgown and a short gown, and I'm going to show you. But so this is your little bedgown. Bedgowns were loose fitting for women that were working. This is for lower and middle class working women, servants, slaves. All of these classes wore a middle class down, wore a bedgown. This would be your working women. Maybe she works. If you go to Colonial Williamsburg, they had ladies that were actually tavern owners there. If you are a black lady and you are wanting to portray a slave, they had bedgowns. If you read runaway slave ads, you'll see a lot of times they'll say that the person that had run away, and this is a very sad part of history, I know, but I'm being historically accurate now. They'll describe the clothing that the runaway had on, and a lot of times it'll say bedgown. Could be a white indentured servant. They ran away too from their indenture, and they will explain, because they did not have the very best clothing. And even lower and middle class women on the frontier, and the reason why they did this is, if you look, this has no waste of fabric, okay? No waste of fabric. So I'm going to show you how to cut this with a little piece of paper. So again, this is 2 yards. I'm just going to write that on here. And this is your selvage. Okay, here's your selvage, which is your open edge. Here's your folded edge. Okay, so here is your, I guess I should turn it this way. Here's your material. Again, wash, dry, iron, exactly the way you found it, and I'm going to show you why. So, you open this out, okay, and we're going to do like we did with the skirt. We're going to open out our fabric and we're going to fold it in half, like this. Okay, so you see, we've opened up our fabric and we folded it the opposite way it came. If you ironed it, you're still going to have that nice crisp line there, and that's actually very important. Now we're going to fold it in half again. And that little line will help you to fold it again. Now, you want your folded edge this way and all of your open edges this way. Or if you want to do it this way, just make sure you're cutting on your open edges. So if you're right-handed or left-handed, it's not going to matter. Now, you're going to put your sleeves, we're going to cut out the neck. So you make a little circle up here in the neck. There's where you're going to cut out your neck. And then here are your sleeves. And you're going to go, well, Candy, how far down do you cut your sleeves? Well, that depends on how loose you want your arms to be. And I didn't bring a ruler with me, and I wish I would have, but here's one of my sleeves. And I would say that my sleeve, after it's been hemmed, I would say that's probably a good 10 inches. So about 10 to 12 inches down is where you're going to, from the top, is where you're going to cut. And then you're going to cut in. And I would say cut in about halfway. This, I went a little bit too far. So about halfway from here would be here. Okay? And then from here to here, you're going to cut. Can you see that? And it has a flare. So, pretend this is our material. And you're going to go, well, let's cut our neck out first. You just cut that little semicircle off the corner. And there is no right or wrong in that, okay? Then we're going to go about halfway over. And then we're going to come up. Now again, make sure you're cutting on this side, not the folded side. Like I said, hopefully showing you this in miniature is going to help you. Then you open it back out. There's your little bed gown. Okay. Then, as you can see that I did in this one, you got to have an opening. So this is why it's important to have these creases. So now we're just going to cut right up the middle. And you have your opening. So I would say the first thing that you usually hem is what I would do if I were you all, and I did not do it on mine, but I've been starting to do it now, is I cut extra material and I sew a casing all around. Let me think about this first. No, okay. Wait a minute. Let's go back. So the first thing you're going to sew is you're going to turn in your raw sides going down the front. Okay? So let's turn in our wrong sides going down the front. And you're like, well, how's this going to fit? It fits people, I would say, up to size 14. Maybe 16, depends. But if you want a lot of room, we're going to show you how to add some room. So here's our little front panel. It's been, the sides have been sewn, the raw edges have been sewn. Now, open this up, and this is where I say I sew an extra casing all the way around so you have a drawstring up at the top of your neck. Now you don't have to do this, and of course if you're going to do the casing, you would sew around the neck first. So let's make a little sew line, and then you can snip this with some the scissors that I can't think of, my pinking shears, so that it doesn't ravel, and then you sew that raw edge down like that. Then you can run a drawstring all through here. Okay, so then you do that. Now the only thing left to do is finish off our raw edges. So you would finish this and this and this and this. Now you could stop there. If you're going to stop there, then do your sleeves first, your raw edges of your sleeves. But I like to put a cuff on mine, and if you look at a lot of bed gowns, you will see, so there you finish your sleeves and you don't have raw edges. And then you come down and you sew this together. Okay? But I like to add a cuff. And if you add a cuff, you'll leave this raw. So, here's my cuff. Let me see if I can raise this up. So excuse the shaking, because this thing is hard to raise. So we can see it a little better. All right. Hopefully that'll get all of it in there. Yeah. Here's my cuff. So what you're going to do, as you can see, I added an extra tube of material to my sleeve, and this is why you would leave this raw. So you're going to sew, and if you look in here, let me show you where I sewed it. And then I pinked these edges. But you can see where I sewed a cuff onto my sleeve. And this is a generous cuff. I'd say that's at least another 8 inches. Of course, you got to have seam allowance. And I finished my raw edge, but you can see where on the finished side, I attached a cuff on with the wrong material facing in, so I can fold this out. And then my bed gown, which if you look at pictures of bed gowns, Almost all of your bed gowns have cuffs. Now, this is my bed gown, and you can see when you go around these corners, I am not an expert seamstress, you all. I'm self-taught. And when you go around the corners of the circle of the neck, it's really hard when you get around that, where your shoulders and that would be. It's hard to sew a circle down. Just try it. Trust me, it's hard. That's why the casing actually is easier to sew this. So that is a bed gown. Now, if you are a larger woman, and I'm getting there, I just keep gaining weight. I'm telling you, it's really frustrating. But let's turn this little guy over. Let's say you're a really larger woman and a size 14 or 16 is not enough for you. This is where you're going to cut up the back of this. This is the back side. You're going to cut up here. And now I've cut my guy in half. But just for the back side, you're going to insert, let me cut a piece of paper here off of our skirt. You're going to insert a panel of material across the back, however wide you need it, however much more room you need it. And this is where, there is no patterns for this little guy. So I don't know how to tell you except to measure yourself around. And I wish I would have done this before. But you can go ahead and sew the whole bed gown. Sew the whole bed gown. And then measure like around when it's done. Then measure yourself around, especially at this point where it's cut in. Then measure yourself around, and however much material you need to add to the back of your gown, then add those inches in and allow for a seam allowance. Now, this is called a bed gown. And again, I'm going to show you, you can put a casing here up around the neck. You put a casing here so you can add a little drawstring. You do not have to. These can be, a lot of times when we go to put them on, they get folded over and your apron is going to hold it on. Okay? Or you can just pin down the front with pins. In that other video, people were like, how did you keep your top closed? And I forgot to mention that. Those pins, those long pins that ladies pinned to the front of their gowns, they used pins. They didn't have buttons. They either used pins or they used drawstrings. Now, if you're going to do the Empire period, what's called the Empire period or the Regency period, or what we call in America the Federal period, and that Federal period, like the Jane Austen novels, everything came right under their bust line. You can actually put another casing across all the way around the back, and you have a drawstring here under your bust line. And that just makes this 1820s and or 1800s to 1820s. And a lot of women remade their clothing because material was not cheap. They remade their clothing to fit the fashion. So that's what you can do for the early 1800s if you need, because they still wore petticoats, which is the skirt, and they wore bed gowns in the working classes. Okay? The well-to-do ladies, like the ladies in the Jane Austen novels, Pride and Prejudice, that sort of thing, they had access to more expensive materials. So that is a tutorial. I hope this helped you all out. And then I brought some examples of some fabric. So this little guy, sorry, I shouldn't have put him away. This is a historical fabric. You can see it's just tiny print. It's just an indigo blue and a little leaf, okay? This was Hobby Lobby. I made my two granddaughters short bed gowns and skirts out of this material. This was one of their tops, okay? And then also at Hobby Lobby is this ticking fabric. And so You can see they're in the same color family. They're hanging together, or they're on the bolts together in Hobby Lobby. I made one a skirt and one a top out of this. Okay? That's Hobby Lobby. This is also Hobby Lobby, I believe. This little check. This is called cotton twill sometimes, or homespun. This is also from Hobby Lobby. This is a homespun. So you could make you a little top. You could make a skirt. A lot of the times the skirts were striped. Vertical stripe. Okay, the stripes are going down. And when you open that material out the correct way, that's what you will get. This is a historical fabric. This is called Eliza's Indigo. And I'm showing you this because a lot of people are like, I don't know what kind of patterns. This is actually a colonial material. It's a larger pattern that I made but it will say on the end of the selvage, like this one says, Eliza's Indigo by Betsy Chuchian for Moda. Now, I love Betsy Chuchian, her fabrics. Everything she does is historical, and it's for Moda. So you can even just Google Betsy Chuchian fabrics by Moda, and it should pull up. Another place that I like to get my material, and you can order it online, is Hancock's of Paducah. Now, it's not like the old Hancock fabric stores. The family's name is Hancock, and it's Hancock's of Paducah. Just Google that. Hancock's of Paducah. It's in Paducah, Kentucky. It is a huge fabric store, and they have the big quilt museum there in Paducah, Kentucky. But if you just Google Hancock's of Paducah, it will give you their website. There'll even be Williamsburg fabrics on there. And then one of the last things I want to show you is a short gown. Now, people don't know the difference of a short gown. And I have a short gown. This was made by folks that came to my reenactments, my Pioneer Days. This was made by a Second Chance at History. This is an extra, extra large. Now, I usually wear about a 16. And I had to go to an extra, extra large. But this is lined, and you can see all the different pieces there are to this short gown. So you've got back pieces, you've got front panels, and here's my pins. See how big these things are? This is not a regular straight pin. That's a couple inches long. You can probably find, and that's how I keep mine pinned shut on this lovely piece. And then on the back, if I can show you the back, there's these several pieces that flare, that make the tail, that make a lovely flared tail. I can't show you the whole thing because we're in miniature. And then last but not least, an apron. Now, I will try to do a better video on this, but I just wanted to show you. This is from that J.P. Ryan. This is from the J.P. Ryan pattern. This is just a square. This is the bib. So the top is going to pin on your bedgown. Then you made those box pleats, and you put a waistband over it. And, of course, your ties. But this is just a big rectangle. So people are like, I don't know how to make an 18th century apron. It's not hard. In fact, I'll just cut a piece of paper up and show you. If you want, and you can, you just cut a big rectangle, fold your top over, fold your top over again to make a casing. Of course, you do the sides first. Fold your sides, or seam your sides first. Then fold it over at the top a little bit, and then fold it down to make a casing. You don't have no raw edges then. And then you run a drawstring right through this, and you have a drawstring apron. This is the quickest apron in the world to make. It's just a drawstring apron. Now, if you want to make the one that I had, you've got your little square for the bib. okay, like this. But that apron was like pleated. I'll try to make pleats here with paper. That apron was pleated. Of course, you've always got a center pleat. This is a very, very primitive way to show you this. This is going to be raw. You put a waistband over the top of that. You take a piece of material and you fold it. And of course, you don't have raw edges. And you fold it. Let me get mine back out here. You can see my waistband. So I made this part first with my box pleats. This needs to be ironed. And then on the back, you can see where I attached the bib. And the bib is just 4 corners. You know, all of your stuff, all your raw edges turned over, and then I just attach the bib. A lot of times I wear this with the bib tucked in, and I wear the apron around my waist without the bib. Either one is appropriate. It just depends on the mood I'm in, whether I want to put the bib up and use the bib or not. But it's easy to fold down and not wear the bib if you don't want to, and pin it. You can just wear the apron. Or you can do the drawstring apron, which is like the drawstring skirt. They're not 100% historically accurate, but if people are getting that close, they're too close to see what you've done. Okay, there's stitch counters out there, and then there's the weirdos. Okay, so now I'm going to show you. I have on my iPad here. I'm going to turn this light off so it doesn't reflect, because we don't need it. Okay, I have a Pinterest page, and I'm going to show you my Pinterest page, if I can find it here. There it is. I have a Pinterest page. And on my Pinterest page, this is just the feed. On my, oops, that was the Rufus Porter Museum. This is my Pinterest page, Sassafras Creek Originals. I believe it's under Candy M, Kandyem, I think. But I think if you Google Sassafras, or you search Sassafras Creek on Pinterest, you can look at it. Now, I'm going to go to my saved. And these are all of my categories. And I have a category called Early Americana. I have 1,000 pins on this page alone. You can see my pins. Some of them are private, but I've got game boards, movies I want to watch, that's private, Colonial Christmas, chocolate, cross stitch, Prim Wool projects, Early Americana, which has 16 subcategories, punch needle, vintage paper, log cabins, quilts, kids crafts, Colonial Williamsburg, decorated cookies. I have all kinds of, there's the store, redware, all kinds of categories on my Pinterest page. I love cute mice. But the one we're going to go to is Early Americana. So I'm going to click on that. And then here's all of my subcategories. We're going to go to Early American Clothing. Now, this picture here, for instance, that is from Colonial Williamsburg's collection. That is a bedgown. You can see it looks just like my little bedgown. Okay? And look at some of these pictures. Look at some of these fabrics. Here's an empire. Here's a pattern for, come on, an empire dress, 1810. This is that empire period I was telling you about. You can do that to your short gown or your bedgown, and it will be a 1810 bedgown. Okay? Here's a picture. This is a very famous painting, a little chocolate girl. She's an 18th century maid. You can see that lovely little flare in the back. That's what my short gown is that I tried to show you. Here's actual historical drawings of people in their clothing. Now this is a fairly well-to-do lady in her short gown, her apron, and her petticoat. Notice how the crazy patterns, these people, they don't match nothing, and that's why I love it. Another thing, she's wearing a modesty piece. Most ladies, if they were married, especially during the daytime, would not let their boobies be hanging out. You always wore a fichu. It's F-I-C-H-U. And most ladies always had their head covered. But that's a modesty piece. Here's a little short gown or short jacket that laces up in the front. Here's another one that I like. This is the back side of a bedgown, and you can add pretty pleats to the back of it, and that looks like it's that extra panel that I showed y'all. You can see the seams there. See the seams? There's seams going down the back of it, and then you can put in these lovely, if you're a really good seamstress, you'll be able to do this by yourself. Well, go away. There we go. Okay, here's another picture of a bedgown. This is a lady, and a reason why I'm showing you all this is a lot of you have asked, I don't know what to, I'm just getting into this. See what I was telling you about making that drawstring apron? Now, she probably has made an actual apron, but that you could get away with a drawstring apron. This is a bedgown, a drawstring apron. If you don't know what patterns to buy or on the material, you can always go with solid colors and a little floral up at the top. Again, she's wearing her modesty piece and a hat. And then when you click on this, more will come up. Oh, shoot. Okay, there's her. Now, she's wearing actually the short gown like I just showed you. It's got those little flares. You can see it's lined. But do you see that apron? Maybe if I don't know if it'll let me pull it up or not. Make it bigger. But anyway, you can get away with a drawstring apron. And this is just some of the pictures. And you look, a lot of women are wearing striped skirts, checked aprons, solids. Here's that bedgown again. This is actual antique textiles. Okay? And this one's lined. Now you can line yours if you like. You just lay the two pieces of material down together, your lining and this one, and cut them at the same time to make sure that they are the right. There's my little housewives and pockets. Let's see here. That poor thing. If y'all want to portray a poor woman, there you go. Now this picture here, this is from Outlander. This is Marcelly. This is Marcelly's outfit. Oh, go away. She wears an Outlander. And you can see she's wearing a check skirt. She's got a cute little short gown vest. And then she's wearing a pretty chemise that's embroidered. And again, she's wearing the fichu or the modesty piece. So, ladies, if you're going to be doing these 18th century and early 19th century, well, let me go back to that. Please wear a modesty piece in your outfit. If you look at these pictures, almost every one of them, without question. Now, in the evening when they were wearing ball gowns, no, they did not wear them. But married women, young women, older women especially, but especially married women, would be wearing that fichu in their clothing. Here's one, and it doesn't have to be white. You go to Colonial Williamsburg, you're going to see this all over town. I've even got some early 18th century in here. Look at that lovely outfit. Look at this one. This is a riot of color. She's wearing 2 petticoats, and you can do that, and you pull up one side and let that one. So in the cooler weather, you can wear a couple of petticoats. This is a quilted petticoat. Look at this gorgeous thing, if it'll pull up. This is French. This is Provence. It's quilted. Isn't that beautiful? So I thought, here's the back of those gowns. Now this is also called a caraco jacket. Okay, a caraco. C-A-R-A-C-O, caraco. This, I've got a lot of French stuff in here because Saint Genevieve was French Canadian, and it would have been riotous color at that time. But then here is this is a milkmaid. Okay, you can see, and it lays out everything she has. This is like the one I showed you that I have that's made by Second Chance of History. Again, I'm going to show you, look at that pretty one there. And I'm going to emphasize this a lot because nothing aggravates me more than I go to a reenactment or something and young ladies' boobs are hanging out. If that's how you dress, you're a tavern wench. Okay? Young women and young married ladies did not let their boobs hang out all over the place. Now she is, but I think she's advertising herself. Here's that 18th century bedgown again. Let me see if it'll show it. 18th century bedgown. There it is. And it looks just like our little guy, and she even put cuffs on it. This is an actual antique textile, original bedgown. So if you want to go to my Pinterest page, I have all of these things saved under the early Americana. There's a pretty little apron. This one is not a drawstring apron. This one is the one that's got the box pleats, and then you put the top over it. And here you see, these are actual drawings from the 18th century. These are actual color drawings of women from the 18th century. And of course you can see, they did not care to mix colors and patterns. Okay. So if you want to look at this, you all go ahead. It's on my Pinterest page. I've got a lot of cool stuff on there. And I don't think I've ever told you all about that. I also have Instagram, and it's under Candy Mahurin, and it's how my name is spelled. But I hope this helped you all today. I know this is a long video, but I really wanted to get a lot in and show you all how to how to make the skirts, the tops, the aprons, and I might try and do a apron video soon. I don't ever make my own chemises, and I don't make my own mop cap. I just it's easier to just have someone else make them. They're not expensive. So hope that helped you all today. Thank you for watching, and God bless. You'll have a good day. Bye.